In today's mental health check, many of us, including children, are still processing yesterday's tragic school shooting in Georgia.
Yeah, and kids can respond to trauma in different ways than parents or teachers, adults might expect. And after a traumatic event like yesterday's, some students may even feel hesitant or anxious about going back to school. So joining us now is family and clinical psychologist Jennifer Hartstein. It's good to see you.
Nice to be here.
This is tough. I mean, it was a lot for me. I posted on social media about how processing those emotions while doing the news is hard. It's hard for everyone, adults. But when you talk to kids, what are the signs that a kid might be struggling?
So there's kind of behavioral signs we can look at and emotional signs we can look at, and just behaviorally, they might start refusing to go to school. They might really want to always be next to you, right? Or they might be more irritable. You just might notice a change in their overall demeanor. And then emotionally, maybe they're more anxious, they're more weepy, they're more depressed, they're kind of lashing out more. And all of that, any significant change in behavior or emotion, you want your antenna to go up and you want to check in with them about that.
How do you even explain to a child a school shooting? I imagine they have so many questions.
Yeah.
You know, why did this happen? What's going on? How do you do that?
So it's a really important question, and I think it's very age dependent, right? Because I think an older kid are numb in some ways. I mean, it's really sad to say this, but they're very numb to this at this point. This is kind of what's happening, and they're used to it, and that's unfortunate. For younger kids, you want to let them lead that conversation. You might want to ask them, have they heard about this? Do they know what's happening? But you want to only kind of answer what they're asking. They may ask one question, and you may be ready to give them a lot of information, and they don't need all of that. You want to validate that their fear and their concern and their exhaustion is real, and you want to check your own anxiety, because although we all may be super anxious that this is happening, our kids, because they have active shooter drills, they have these things going on all the time, they may just roll with it way better than we do as the adults watching it.
That's a really fair point. There was a study that found that a traumatic event at school where they're supposed to feel safe can make children maybe feel hyper vigilant. Yes. What other ways can it impact mental health?
So it's going to impact mental health in lots of ways. We might be more anxious, we might be more depressed, and then it takes a lot of emotional energy to focus on, am I safe, am I okay? So now it's impacting how I do in school. I can't focus, I'm maybe less organized, I have more executive functioning things, which then leads to more problems in school and more depression and more anxiety. So it becomes a cycle.
I mean, given sort of the symptoms you've outlined, right? Depression, anxiety, just a general wariness, what can caregivers and teachers do?
It's important, right? We're already in a mental health crisis, and now you have this on top of everything else. And I think we have to create as safe a space as we can. We have to let kids know that they are in fact safe. Although we hear about school shootings and they're happening way too often, I think we can all agree, they are still rare. More kids are going to school every day without a problem than are going to school with a problem. So we need to remind kids that that's the truth. We want to decrease their media exposure. Shut off, no offense all, shut off the news, right? But do something that's fun, get outside, move your bodies, provide opportunities to have conversations. And again, we go back to validation. Don't dismiss them. Don't be like, hey, whatever, it's going to be fine. Really sit in that space and let them have a space to talk to you about it, and let them know that it makes sense that they're nervous and that things are hard.
I mentioned yesterday, I actually texted my family, group text, and said, you know, this is a really hard day. And my son called me immediately, Zach. And I just wanted to make sure I was okay. And I had that moment where I was like, I don't know how much I want to, I don't want to like dump all my emotions on even my older children. Where do you balance that?
Well, it is okay to say, this is hard for me too. And I'm okay, right? So him wanting to check in is awesome, and being able to say, hey, thank you so much for that. That meant so much to me. I'm okay. It was just a really hard day. How is it for you? And then we're having dialogue, and we're modeling that it's okay to have emotion and it's okay to express it.
And any tips for outside of these negative events? As you mentioned, a lot of these students are doing these drills in school. Any tips for just easing their nerves in that setting when they're coming home from that?
Well, talk about it. I mean, I think we want to be like, it happened in school. Like, you know, we don't want to talk about things because we think that makes it harder. But the fact is, talking about things makes things easier. We're normal. I mean, I hate to say we're normalizing the drills, but we're normalize the feelings around it, and that's important.
Jen Hartstein, thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We got a lot more news ahead.
You're watching NBC News Daily.